the Leganto instructor course rollover. This is a follow-on from a webinar that we had in October, which was around course rollover, which Meredith Mui from University of Sunshine Coast and Patrina Collingwood led. Today we have Richard Gray, Derek Chen and Ichsan Tamsir Putra from UNSW Library talking about instructor rollover, which we have just recently implemented. I'd like to thank them for leading today's discussion. They'll start each presenting their perspectives of the functionality and how we're using it, and then there'll be some time at the end of the presentation for questions. So I'll hand over to Richard to get us started.
Thank you, Sue. So thank you all and welcome to our presentation. So as Sue said, today's presentation is going to be primarily about the UNSW library experience with the new Leganto instructor rollover for academics at UNSW. I'm Richard Gray. I'm one of the team leaders for the academic engagement team at UNSW. So for those of you who don't know, our unit contains both services librarians dealing with frontline drop-in research support services and consultations with students of all levels, and as the name academic engagement would imply, outreach librarians engaging with the faculty on their teaching and research needs, which is where Leganto comes in a big way. So I'll be speaking primarily about the background of Leganto at UNSW, briefly at least, and the conversations with academics we've had before and after the implementation of the rollover. Primarily, we'll all be talking about the cross-organizational matrix approach we took to delivering the product to the clients, in this case, the academics. As you'll see from the first slide, and as Sue mentioned, we've also got Ichsan, who is our digital support specialist at UNSW Library, and he will be talking primarily at the technical implementation of the rollover function. And Derek will then, who's the team leader in our electronic resources unit, will speak to the testing of the functionality as well, and then I'll speak again a little bit more about the some of the feedback we've had from academics and where we potentially go next. So while this is actually about the rollover implementation, I'll just give you a little bit of a brief history as to how we've used Leganto in the past here at UNSW Library. So we first piloted the Leganto more broadly in 2016, and what happened then was the outreach librarians working closely with faculty found a group of academics who expressed interest in using the product, so that was very much a collaboration between the library and the faculty to see who would best give feedback on the product. So we started in the first session of 2016 with 10 published lists and expanded that to 23 published lists in the second session of 2016. So fast forward to 2018, of the 2021 possible courses that we're using Moodle, there have been 270 published reading lists in Leganto. Now, it should be noted that not every course that is listed as using Moodle is an active user for teaching purposes, meaning that the proportion is much higher than that figure would imply. So the bottom line for us is that people who are using it are actively engaged with it, that they and that the numbers are steadily growing, and they are not just users but evangelists for the product as well. They're actually encouraging their colleagues to use it. Promotion of Leganto to the faculty is via the outreach librarians and, of course, information that's on our website. And Leganto was adopted as it fit with the self-service model that we actively promote at UNSW. That is, it's a product that allows academics to put lists together the way they want to in their own time, and it can actually actively see how students are using it. So to that end, by the time we were able to actually start looking at the rollover function, we'd already done a lot of work with academics in determining what they wanted out of Leganto. And so what you're seeing on screen here at the moment was a matrix model that we developed and rolled out in early 2018. It's a digital object, and it's designed to give academics the information they need so they can make an informed decision as to whether Leganto meets some of their teaching needs. So some of these marked with a green tick on that list there were ways in which academics and instructors could have an unmediated experience with the product. So for example, if academics were thinking about using Leganto and they wanted to create a dynamic course resources list, we've indicated there that they or someone else can have those items be in online print or digitized. Similarly, if they wanted to request digitized print items from the library, that's something they could do with Leganto, and so on. The circles were open because these were opportunities for the library to continue engaging with the academics. So it may not be something they could do that was obvious for them to do immediately when they logged in, but it was something that we could certainly engage in a further conversation with them. And it's a large part of what we do in academic services. We also heard almost universally that there were some aspects that to the existing duplicate list option, for example, that were serving as barriers for ease of reuse for a second term or a second session. The X, for example, in this version of the matrix, and I'll show you a different version of the matrix later on, indicated that the permalinks weren't necessarily coming over with the duplication option. We're adding an extra step for academics, and they had to contact us for assistance. Obviously, this is something that the rollover function feature has addressed. Ichsan's going to talk a little bit more now as I hand over to him for discussion on this.
Okay, thank you, Richard, and hello, everyone. Before we look at how UNSW implement instructor rollover, I'm going to talk about how we load courses to ALMA in UNSW. So we load our courses to ALMA daily using ALMA course loader job. And the process started with library fetch the copy of course fit files that are loaded to Moodle. The main reason for using the same courses fit file as Moodle is to make the LTI link from Moodle course to Leganto reading list works without any issue, as both Moodle and Leganto have the same course ID. Then the shell script transforms the courses into ALMA CSV format as an input file to ALMA course loader job. Then an ALMA course loader job is scheduled to run daily at 8 in the morning to load the courses into ALMA. The course loading process are running daily until the end of semester. And at the end, after the semester ends, we also remove courses without reading list from ALMA. Okay, we review and tested rollover functions in course loader, and then we concluded that the course loader rollover function isn't applicable to UNSW. The primary reason was that we do not have the mapping between old and new semester courses, and it is not possible to programmatically construct the mapping due to no persistent identifier in the courses either. So we look at using duplicate functions as a workaround. So instructors who wanted to roll over their reading list to a new course, so the instructor can duplicate the reading list and associate the duplicated reading list to a new course. However, the reading list duplication didn't work well for rollover solutions, as there were some issues with the permalinks, where the existing permalinks must be manually updated to link to a new course or reading list. LTI links to reading list or section or citation appears to have the same problem as well. Instructors have to manually update these LTI links to link to a new reading list. The way the copyright work in duplicate list also make the duplicate list functions not a working solution for rolling over. In the duplicated reading list, the copyright attributes are not retained, so staff have to rekey in all the copyright attributes, and the copyright status is also reset to not determined. So we work with Xlibris Leganto team on instructor rollover functions, and Xlibris finally delivered these functions in August 2018 release. And we ran some testing, which Derek will talk about in more detail. And after some fixes, we finally implement this function in our ALMA production on 27th of November 2018. We like this Leganto instructor rollover functions because it makes the course rollover process aligned between Leganto and Moodle, where the course rollover is performed by the instructors. So to enable or to implement Leganto instructor rollover functions in ALMA, it's pretty straightforward. So you just set the rollover flag to true via ALMA fulfillment configuration, Leganto, and customer settings. And the next things to configure are the rollover options. First, we configure all the options in our ALMA sandbox for testing. As you can see from the table on the left-hand side, we went through all the options in the configuration mapping table and decided whether each rollover option should be kept as copy or to be reset. For example, we want all the citation statuses and tags to be kept as copy. So we don't want to lose our work that we have done. The other changes that we have done was to rename the label from rollover list to reuse list for new teaching period. As you can see on the right-hand side image, we also renamed the duplicate list to copy and keep list. These label changes have made it clearer to course instructors to select an option that suit their need. We also decided to make all the default options invisible to instructors to make the Leganto interface as simple as possible. I'm now handing over to Derek, who will talk more about the testing that we have done on the instructor rollover.
Hello, I'm Derek. The first thing I want to show is the different display between the instructors and the librarian's view. So when the course instructor selects the rollover in Leganto, there will be prompt with the course selection page, by which they can search the new course they want to roll over to. Once they select the course, because we made all the default options invisible, the instructor only sees the course information before clicking on the rollover function. On the other hand, after selecting a course, our librarians will see all the options. Unfortunately, the settings librarians see are still the out-of-box default, not what we configured for the instructors. For example, we have configured the library internal tag to be copied, but under the librarian view, it shows as reset. This means that librarians have to change the setting to copy manually if they are doing the rollover. So at the moment, if we need to do the rollover on the instructor's behalf, we need to check and ensure each default option is selected according to the configuration mapping table, which Ichsan has mentioned on the previous slide. We have submitted a Salesforce case to report the issue, and it is currently pending release for February 2019. For testing of the rollover, we created a master reading list and broke down each default option into a different section and added the expectation in the section name. For example, we want the citation status to be copied and the copyright approvals to be recalculated. Each section only contains 1 or 2 citations. This is saving us a lot of time when testing. So when a new release is applied to the sandbox or the production environment, we just duplicate this reading list, then run the rollover, and then review the results. Before testing, I duplicate a reading list first to keep an original version of the list. When doing this, some citation status will be reset to be prepared. So I need to change them according to the test plan. Then I do the rollover. Also, as you can see, I added the citation status in the citation title. So when I open the rollover reading list, I could see if the citation status are copied straight away without opening the old list for comparing. You can test the rollover without duplicating the list, and I have done this when testing the December release, and it is working well. The thing we are quite excited with the rollover is the copyright approval, because it is not only retaining all the information, including the image tick box and the 3 notes field, but it also recalculates. The screenshot below is the rolled over record, and you can see it was recalculated, and the copyright status was approved automatically. This contrasts the duplicate list function, where the copyright approval is not recalculated. We also ran testing on these categories, which are not in the current configuration mapping table. Information like Creative Commons and the disabled resolving are copied, which is what we want. On the other hand, although the instructor node is copied, but it is not the information we required, because UNSW used the self-service model, and the instructor node captured the library discussion history between instructors and the library from the previous section, and we would like to start it over again. The information we would like to copy over is the library note. This is an internal note that we are using to record information of special cases, like document was uploaded because we were granted with a special license, or an academic has already declared the permission to use the document, so we don't need to check with them again. Additional resource information is also important for us. This is where instructor or librarians can add extra links, so we would like it to be copied. As mentioned earlier, we submitted a Salesforce case to report the instructor rollover operations mapping table doesn't work for librarians. From the testing, we have submitted 3 suggestions to the idea exchange. The first one is to have the additional resource information, and the second one is having the library internal notes to be copied to the rolled over list. Another idea we proposed is relocating the rollover list menu item from the drop-down to appear next to the send list button. Richard, would you like to tell us more about this function, this suggestion?
Sure. So as Derek was saying, we're looking at to have the rollover button on taking it out of the drop-down list, for example, and moving onto the main screen to kind of remove any barriers and make it more inviting for the potential user. It's the same rationale for, as Ichsan was saying, that we changed the name from rollover and the duplicate list to, in the case of rollover, we changed it to reuse list for new teaching period. It's something that'll make sense for the client. You know, I'm a big fan of the, I think what I like to call the big red button approach to user interfaces. If there's a big red button I can mash, that's the one that I want to mash. So it's very much something that's it's on the long term for us. So yes, it was a really good point, and I think that ideas exchange is something that's really helped us through this process. So really what both Ichsan and Derek have illustrated is that the implementation of a product like this is the work of the collaboration between multiple units across an organizational matrix of a university library, and also working with vendors, deep engagement with our clients, in this case, they're the academics, and being responsive to conversations that have presented themselves in the interim. The matrix that I showed at the start of the session has in fact changed over the course of the year. So thanks to upgrades in 2018, we've been able to change that conversation to something even more open. We've been able to get rid of that red cross. So one caveat that I should say about a lot of the stuff that we've done with the rollover is that UNSW is actually moving to a 3+ model, what we're calling UNSW 3+ in 2019. That is, we're moving from semesters to a trimester model. So we'll really get a chance to see the impact and the success of the rollover feature probably in 2020, when people, if we can think that far ahead, as it will be the first time academics have had multiple iterations of a rollover throughout the year. So anecdotally, it's been really, really, really positive response. I've had some of my outreach team members say that they've come back from meetings where they've mentioned this, and there's been actual cheers in the room when they've heard about the rollover. And I certainly had the same impact when I brought this up when I first brought this up at the outreach team meeting. So there's a real tangible desire to use this because it's one less barrier. Because people like the product, but they want one less barrier there. So ultimately, these conversations provide us with more opportunities, not just to work with the faculties and individual academics as partners in teaching and learning, but continue to deliver a one library approach to service delivery. That is, working with other units within the library to deliver a single service to the faculties. And I think that's something that we're all working towards. So on that note, that has been a sort of an overview of how we got to this point. We've left some time now to see if you have any questions, and we're just restoring our screen so we can actually see. Sorry, I'll leave that to you because I've navigated completely away from your questions.
Thanks, Richard.
No problem.
Thanks also to Derek and Ichsan. And I'd like to just open it up for discussion now. Whoops, now I'm having problems. Any questions or any feedback people would like? So there's a question here from Peter Hopkins. How does it work where different teaching staff are taking over a subject?
Right, so you guys might be able to talk about this more from a technical point of view, but there is a collaborator role in Leganto at the moment. When we roll over at the moment, the default option is to have those additional collaborators reset. So that particularly takes into account that there might be a course coordinator, but there will be sessional or casual teaching staff who might do the actual teaching of the subject at different times throughout the year. So there's the opportunity to add other collaborators from a coordinator's point of view. So yes, the short answer is, as the administrator, you can add a collaborator and then change their status accordingly once you've added them into the system. Is there anything you guys wanted to add to that at all, or is that?
Yeah, so this is also related to the course loading. So when we load the courses, the new semester courses, that it contains the instructors. So as Richard says, all these instructors will become a collaborator also in the what do you call it, in the reading list. And also furthermore, in the October release, there's a new functions where we can automatically assign instructor role via LTI link. So this help us a lot because there will be like the educational manager who doesn't exist in the feed file as an instructor, but they need to manage the course. So with this new functions, they can just create the LTI link in Moodle, and then when an LTI link take them to the Leganto reading list, they will automatically have instructor role, and also they will become one of the reading list collaborator. Yep. And I think, and then through that they can do the course rollover function.
Peter, does that answer your question, or would you like me to unmute you?
Yeah.
That's okay.
And
thanks, Peter.
Yeah, one of the things I did actually allude to then was the fact that we had default options, and Ichsan and Derek did speak about that earlier in terms of how we actually presented that. The rationale for that was, as with everything else I've mentioned, that we wanted to have as few impediments when they hit the rollover button to rolling that course over. So we made some decisions, and that was decisions we made. Getting all the sort of stakeholders within the library together to make decisions around what functions we would turn on and off as part of the rollover once the rollover was activated. And that was collaborated. We had a lot of conversation about that. We did take it to the outreach team and to see what academics would have thought about that. But really, the default options that we have chosen are the ones that we thought would prove have the fewest number of barriers for academics ultimately going forward. Because as I said before, what they really want is a giant button that says, I can use this again. And some of the features of the duplicate list feature were, duplicate list function were actually confusing some of the academics as well. So.
Is anyone in the audience working with instructor rollover currently or testing it, or have we convinced you that it's something that would be worthwhile trying? Okay, so think about that one while we answer Kelly's question. Can the instructor roll over a reading list multiple times? If so, do you have a library process to manage duplication?
The quick answer is yes, you can roll over multiple times. I'm still reading the second question, but quite sure. If so, do you have a library process to manage duplication?
So I think what you would probably, if you noticed, if Derek's team had noticed a duplication there, they would probably contact my team to get in touch with the instructor.
Yeah.
And as I said, it's very much about communication there. So we would say, is this something you meant to do, or were you trying to roll over something twice? And they'll 9 times out of 10, no, it wasn't something they were meaning to do. So the process really is that Eric's team in electronic resources Derek's team rather in electronic resources will try and will identify the duplication, and our academic engagement will have that conversation. So yes, there is a process.
Yeah, and we're doing that already in other areas.
Exactly.
And this has been in production now. The configuration has been there a week.
Yes.
So we are closely monitoring it to see what the feedback is on what works well, where can we improve the process, and that's really just business as usual for us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Thank you.
So is anyone using instructor rollover? Have we convinced you?
Hi Sue, this is Julie from Adelaide University.
Hi, Julie.
Hi. We've done a little bit of testing, but yeah, I think we will do more testing to see, how it works and if it will work for us. And it's something I really liked and hadn't really thought about it, but I really liked the way that you've set the defaults, but then not made anything available for the academics to change. I think that's the best way to go, probably. So yeah, thank you. That's been really useful.
And it also keeps it, as Richard was saying, keeps it clean, and Derek as well, a clean interface to try and keep it as simple as possible.
Yes.
And it gives us some flexibility in terms of being able to change things under the covers and communicate that without too much confusion.
Yeah, that's.
If we get enough feedback saying where has this thing gone, it's something we can easily turn back on again. Yeah.
And Renee and Bree, yay! That's great to hear that you've turned it on for semester 1 next year. That's really good.
I really like your matrix for communicating with faculty too. Yeah, I mean, and it's actually interesting because we've got the way the library is set up, and I'm sure every library is set up. There's very much a temptation to have silos between units, but I think a rollout of something like this will not work unless we're all communicating with each other. The one thing that has actually rolled out more formally in the last year or so, probably this year, in fact. The other half of my role is to do with internal and external communications. So we've rolled out an internal communication strategy within the library, and the rationale behind that internal communication strategy is that we deliver our services best to the public, to our clients, when we're all on the same page within the library. And so we've set up a lot of processes, everything from shared calendars to working spaces and webinars like this one and conversations that ensure we're all on the same page. So we all deal with the clients at different points. And
doing working groups around functional features in the software, exploring functions.
Yeah. It's been one of the most collaborative processes I've been involved in since doing this. Anyone looking at using, so the question is anyone looking at using the instructor rollover and the course loader rollover?
well, we can't use the course rollover because of limitations in the data structure. But it would be interesting to know if anyone's doing a combination.
Mm. Does anyone have similar limitations, or do you not and you are using them? That would be interesting to know. So Flinders says our current plan is both, as we're just about to do our full rollout to the system. We've just finished our testing. Fantastic. Ah, thanks, Kelly. And I didn't even notice the typo, Flinders. So
Are there any more questions? Okay, so we might wrap up. This session has been recorded, and the recording will be available for download with the presentation from the ANZREG website, and I'll post out to the ANZREG list once it's available for you. Richard's just brought up email addresses if you want to get in touch with us to follow up if you've got other questions that you want to ask. Also think about posting questions to ANZREG list or to the Leganto list so that you've got a wider audience included in those conversations, so that you're sharing the experience with the community and we can all learn together and foster that community. I'd also like to do a call out, since it's the end of the year. We've had a couple of discussions now around Leganto course rollover, the instructor rollover. If there's anyone interested in leading more Leganto discussions in 2019, or if there's an area, a topic that you'd like to explore with the community, please think about that and let me know, because I'm more than happy to coordinate that with the ANZREG committee and with the Leganto working group. I'd also like to take this opportunity to wish everyone happy holidays and look forward to getting back to working together in 2019. Just one last reminder, there is a survey that Ex Libris sent out, or that I sent out to the Leganto list on Ex Libris' behalf on Monday. It's a very short survey. It's where the teaching and learning unit responsible for Leganto is looking for feedback on their processes and ways in which they can improve whatever needs improvement in their communication with us as customers, with the product development. And that survey closes on Friday, the 7th of December. So if you haven't responded already, it's quick, it's 5 questions. It shouldn't take too long to answer, but please consider giving that feedback to Tamar and to Ex Libris. Thank you.
And
yeah.
Yeah, sorry. And I wouldn't be doing my job unless I also mentioned that you can connect with us in multiple ways, of course, across our social media networks. At UNSW Library is the case for Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Of course, you can find us online at library.unsw.edu.au, and there's a lot more information there about. You actually find a copy of that matrix as well. That's on the Leganto page on our website as well. So, so that's it from me. So thank you all again.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone.